Greetings and welcome back to Doctor Who Revisited, where I go through every single episode of Doctor Who from 1963 all the way up to 2022 and review them. And this next episode is The Web of Fear. And holy hell, there is a lot to unpack with this one. A lot to unpack. First of all, picking up where the previous episode left off, with the TARDIS leaving planet Earth in the far future of 2018, and Salamander falling from the TARDIS doors and disintegrating in a time vortex, we get the Doctor trying to stabilize the TARDIS in orbit at some place we still don't know quite yet, but then the TARDIS is being taken over by this cobweb-like substance, draining the power from the TARDIS and preventing the TARDIS from land. And first of all, right off the bat, great crisis, great danger for the Doctor and friends to face in the very early stages of the episode itself. It's great. It's a great setup to the conflict that's to come, and really, it's one of the most major battles that the Doctor has ever had to face up until that point. And then we cut to a returning character, one of the few characters in the 60s that actually made a return, Professor Travers. Played once again by Jack Watling, the father of Deborah Watling, who is obviously playing Victoria in the episode as well, so they get to act alongside each other again, a father-daughter duo. But when I first saw this, when I saw it for the first time, my mind was blown away. It's like, holy shit, hell, they brought the guy back! Obviously he's older, and they aged him up a lot in the episode itself, but classic Doctor Who did not used to do that. They do it all over the place in the modern series, but the classic series did not used to do that a lot, especially in the 60s, and that was really where my jaw dropped to the floor, and the fact that they brought the character back. And they really do a great follow-up to the previous episode of him following after a new Yeti, a proper Yeti, or what he thought was a proper Yeti after the adventure with in the Himalayas, only to discover that he brought another robot Yeti into the museum. He realizes he's done wrong in that sense, and he tries to undo that mistake, but the museum curator does not like to give up on his prized possession, to his own demise, obviously, because the Yeti then eventually comes to life and kills him. Now, first things first, I will admit, not the biggest fan of the redesign, the slight redesign of the Yeti. They gave him eyes now, so, you know, whatever. It's sort of a minute detail, but I much preferred the more mystique-looking Yeti from the previous episode. But that's really neither here nor there. It's just nitpicking. So, you know, whatever. The Yetis come back to life, and now there are more Yetis than ever before, and now they even have weapons in the form of the web gun that they used to web everything up, and as they did to the underground railway station where the TARDIS eventually lands after the Doctor manages to overcome the problem with the cobwebs. First of all, they discover that the whole of London has been abandoned for some reason because of certain things that are happening in the underground station. They're being considered as saboteurs and terrorists and people going against the military, who's sort of taking charge of the whole operation, until Professor Travers re-enters the picture. Maybe it's because in real life she's the actor's daughter or whatever. Not really sure, but Victoria recognizes him straight away, immediately. He sort of has a bit of butting heads with Jamie before Victoria, the voice of reason, realizes that, oh, wait a second, that's Professor Travers. We know this guy. It's sort of a continuation of that previous episode, which also featured the Professor Travers, and sort of kind of part of an unofficial trilogy of episodes that we will get to the reason for why in just a minute. But recognizing Victoria and Jamie, Professor Travers immediately falls back into place and realizes that, oh, the Doctor is here, the Doctor's a good guy, we know the Doctor, I know the Doctor's on our side, and he immediately tells his daughter to trust these two people on the sole base that he met them before, and they haven't aged a day, even though it's been, 38 years, I think, since that happened. Not really 100% sure on the exact timeline of things, but yeah, so they go in search of the Doctor, and the Doctor meanwhile is in search of whatever is happening, and obviously this episode gives us the introduction of one of the greatest characters in the history of Doctor Who, not the Brigadier, Colonel Alistair Gordon Lethbridge-Stewart. Great debut for this character. Obviously, he's one of the Doctor's best friends and a major influence on the Doctor's lives going forward, but I love that in his introductory episode, him and the Doctor don't really get off to the best start. I mean, they don't trust each other right away, especially, almost told him the Brigadier. Especially Lethbridge-Stewart, he does not trust the Doctor or Jamie right away. They sort of have to work up a bit of trust, which honestly will be finalized in his next appearance, but that's still several ways away. There is some sort of a lot of butting heads between the second Doctor and Lethbridge-Stewart in this episode, which obviously is going to become a regular thing between the Doctor and the Brigadier once he becomes the Brigadier. But either way, as a military leader, a military commander, I mean, Lethbridge-Stewart is not a guy you want to disagree with. He's a guy you want to have on your team, and it's perfectly exemplified in a lot of the parts of this serial, especially in the parts where we literally see the Brigadier, where we literally see the British soldiers, because it's still part of the military, it's not a part of a unit just yet. We do see a lot of the British soldiers fighting against the Yeti, being led by Colonel Lethbridge-Stewart, and we do see him going in full military leader type mode. He leads the charge, and it's some great military fight scenes. It sort of goes back into what I said a couple of seasons ago about the war machines. It's sort of, that episode really was the turning point where they realized that there needs to be a stronger military presence in these contemporary Doctor Who episodes at the time, which do take place in London. This episode is another great example of that, and the best one is still yet to come. But it really do see a step up in how the BBC and the showrunners use the military people in this episode, and how the military is being portrayed fighting against alien menaces all throughout this era of Doctor Who. Yeah, there's some really great fight sequences there. And obviously, with the return of Professor Travers, with the debut of the Brigadier, we must also talk about the return of the Great Intelligence. A legendary villain in the realm of Doctor Who by this point, obviously. But when this episode itself airs, he's still relatively new, but this was one of the episodes where we get to learn more about him and how I'm saying him, should be it. We learn more about it, and we learn how menacing it is. First of all, it's established pretty early on that there is a mole in the camp, a spy, a sort of double agent, if you will, working for the intelligence, and no one really knows who that is. Everybody suspects everybody, and the person you were most expecting it to be ends up not being the case. It was actually the staff sergeant the whole time, the least likely person to have been the agent of the Great Intelligence. That's just great writing, in my opinion, where the least expected person to be working for the bad guy ends up being the guy working for the bad guy. And I do love the attempt that the Doctor does in sort of absorbing the Great Intelligence. I don't know if it would have worked. I don't know how powerful they wanted the Great Intelligence to be at that time. Maybe it could have saved the Doctor a lot of problems going forward with the Matt Smith incarnation, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. Right now, as it stands, the Great Intelligence knows of the Doctor. Obviously, thanks to Stephen Moffat, we know that the Great Intelligence has been on Earth for a lot longer than we had originally figured in the Snowman episode, which the whole introduction of the Great Intelligence in that episode throws everything off. It kind of makes the whole trip of the Great Intelligence to the Himalayas kind of pointless. I'm never really going to get over that. But besides that, the Great Intelligence in this episode especially is a great foil for the Second Doctor and you really do see how menacing it is without actually properly seeing the intelligence itself. It usually operates through the Yetis themselves and through the staff sergeant. And again, I like the Doctor's attempt to absorb the intelligence into himself, into his own mind, and sort of disposing of it, which eventually it gets foiled by Jamie, who thinks that he's doing the right thing, but actually isn't. It's something that really happens a lot with the second Doctor and Jamie, but at the end of the day, they did stop the intelligence, they saved the world again, and they got on Colonel Lethbridge-Stewart's good side. So what else can you really ask, in a way? So, yeah, overall, it's a good episode, a great introduction of Lethbridge-Stewart. I wish that they did the whole Professor Travers thing more, where bringing back characters from previous episodes. They sort of tried to do that in the next time they were in London, but that's, like I said, it's in the future a bit. And I wonder if Professor Travers was a much more expanded upon character in other Doctor Who media that I'm just not aware of at the moment, but I like the character of Professor Travers, and I wish they used him more often. That's really all I can say about this episode. Great use of the Yetis, great use of the military, great introduction of Lethbridge-Stewart. I love the fact they brought back Professor Travers, and a lot of really great visuals and a lot of great settings, setting the whole thing primarily within a underground railway station. But that's it for now. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think about this episode yourselves. And yeah, that's it for now. So goodbye for now. Hi there! Thank you for watching the video, and if you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and tell your friends. I'll see you next time!